So I'd like to give it up for Eric. So what I'd like to start with, though, is I'd like you to all cross your arms. Just fold your arms. Okay? Now switch them. Yeah, how'd that feel?
Weird.
Weird, right? Other words?
Confusing.
Confusing, right? Now, is anybody here who knows how to do that really well? Because sometimes there's one person in the room who says, not a problem. But usually it's odd. So what that's about is how you feel when it comes to change. And so what I'm going to talk about today is going to be about that feeling about change, because that's what goes on. Now, when I was in 5th grade, I did something where it was a show and tell. Anybody remember show and tell? Anybody have show and tell? Yeah, okay, show and tell, right? So I was a science nerd, and I had a chemistry set. And I said, okay, I'm doing show and tell. What am I supposed to do with that? They said, I know. I'm going to talk about something where if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to scare the heck out of you, right? And I had this chemistry experiment. It was called a thermite reaction, where I put some stuff in a glass beaker, and it actually cracked the beaker. I'm going, that's a good one. But flame came up about that high, and it scared me. So the night before, I decided I was going to change proportions, because it's like, I got to get it lower, because I can't deal with that. But it would make the point, right? So the next day I go in, and I put, this was an old setup where the teacher's desk is in the front, there's a blotter on there, and everybody's in the rows, and I put the beaker on, and I poured in potassium chloride sugar for any chemist in the room, but then I had sulfuric acid, which is the thing that oxidizes it. But what happened was that I changed the proportions, and it increased the oxidation so much that the flame went up to the ceiling, and it shot all over. The first 2 rows ran back. Right? So do you think I showed them what happens when you don't know what you're doing? Yeah, going forward. So, now, since 2001, I've been working with CEOs, owners of companies. And it's really about helping them get more of what they want. So I've worked with over 100 companies since then, going forward. As Eric said, I run 2 CEO roundtables, one here and one on Long Island. I'm an angel investor going forward. And another part of this is in the roundtable that I ran on Long Island, there was a fellow named Dan Galvez. This is like 3 years ago. And Dan was going to merge with a company in the Midwest. Now, for those who are familiar with this, this show will be absolutely shocking. They didn't agree on valuations. It was a shock, right? So, but he said, hey, he really liked the way they ran their business. And so he said, well, how do you run your business? And he said, well, they told him to read this book, Traction. So I got involved with this. Traction's written by a guy named Gino Wickman about 3 years ago. And there are over 2,500 companies in the U.S. Who use Traction. And that's what we'll be talking about today, Entrepreneurial Operating System. I have the first company in Colombia, South America. And so I've been learning Spanish. Hablo español?
Sí. Poquito.
Muy bien. Muy bien. Going forward. So that's just sort of my background in terms of what I've done. And I've got really 2 goals here. One goal is to first to simplify how you think about your business so that you get more traction in the business. The second goal is really to provide you with some practical tools that you use to allow you to get more done in the business itself. That's what we go for. So let me get started. Actually, I'm going to do something first. You all have a workbook. So what I'd like you to do is to think about your business. And I know some different size businesses here, maybe you're part of a business. I'd like you to think about what do you want from your business 5 years from now? Right? So think out 5 years and write down one thing about your business. It's important you do this because we're going to be doing lots of stuff that's going to be building around this idea. So write down, what is that one thing you want 5 years from now about your business? Everybody got something? So I mentioned to some of you that this is a workshop, and it's not going to be just me talking. It's going to be us working together. Does anybody want to share what they want? Who's going to be the brave one? William, what do you want?
I put generating $1 million in profit annually.
$1 million in profit. Great. Okay, anybody else want to share what they want to do? Yes, what's your name?
I'm Ned.
Ned?
Ned Boyachin. I want a steady stream of inbound qualified prospects.
Okay, and what would that look like if you had that? Is there a number around that, or what would you do with that? So, in other words, is there a number about how many you want, what you want to do with those inbound prospects?
I would have to give some thought to a specific number, and what I want to do with them is convert them into happy clients.
Right. Okay. Now, in the years that I've been doing this, oh, I gotta switch over. Sorry. So this is like, don't watch the guy behind the curtain. So what I'm going to talk about first is, since I've been doing this, I've really found that there are really 5 frustrations in business owners. The first frustration is just this question of control. That's obviously the title of what this is about. And what's that mean? It means that I don't feel I'm in control of my business, meaning of the marketplace, my clients, my staff. I'm reactive. And what you're going to find about this whole thing we're going to talk about is being intentional. But that's what it feels like. I'm not in control of what I'm trying to do, right? Very frustrating. The second thing is really about profit. And this is about, well, I'm running my business, I'm working 80 hours a week. Do I have enough money, let's say, put away for retirement? Do I have enough money for my kids to go to college? Do I have enough money if I wanted to grow my business and invest in the business? Right? Do I have enough money, this is the worst one, to be able to pay the salaries of my employees, right? For those who've been there, done that, you know that that's the most gut-wrenching thing going on. The next is about people. Now, I want to know, is there anybody in here who's not had a problem with a person? Please raise your hand. What? Yeah, right. So sometimes what happens is, and depending on your size of the business, one has to do with leadership. And part of that problem with leadership is, why do I got to tell my leaders what to do? Why can't I give them a set of objectives and they figure out what it is to do? Why is it that if I've got Joe, and Joe says he's going to get something done, right? But, why can't I count on Joe getting done? Why, if he's not going to do what he says he's going to do, he's going to come back to me and say, you know what, I got a problem, I need help. Or, I'm not going to make it when I said I'm going to make it, but here's what I'm going to do about it, it'll be a little bit later, right? Going forward. Not accountability. The next part of this is a phenomenon called hitting the ceiling. Anybody can guess what this means?
Plateauing.
What?
You're plateauing in your objectives.
That's right. So what it is there are businesses, and you'll see this a lot, is that they start growing really, really nicely, okay? They start to slow down, and then they plateau when it comes to revenue. And the strange thing is, it's sort of like, well, I've done all these things that made me successful before. What's going on? It seems like the things I've done before aren't working, right? And the last part of this is, I'm trying lots of things. I'm going to meetings, I'm trying to find new ideas, but boy, nothing seems to be working. Now, if in the next hour, 15 minutes, if I can help you figure out how to solve these frustrations, is that worth your time? Yeah. Good? Okay. So what we're going to start with is, go to page 3. What I'm going to talk about right now is a model about how to think about the business. One insight of the fellow who created this, a fellow named Gino Wickman, is instead of having to think about all the things I always think about in my business, 136 different things, I'm going to think about 6 components. And if I think about those 6 components, and I'm really good at those 6 components, I can have a great business. Now, when I go through this isn't going to be anything you're going to look at and you go, oh my God, it's like some new, amazing thing. What you're going to find about this is that it's a system that's been put together that's simple and practical. Some of it's going to be like, yeah, I've seen that before. So the first thing we talk about here as a component is the notion of vision. So vision just means I want to get 100% clarity about where I'm going, my destination, right, and how I'm going to get there. That's the clarity I want. The second part of this is that I want great people. But every business defines their people in a different way, right? But I want those great people to be able to help me make that journey with me to reach where I want to go, vision of where I want to go to. The next part of this is, well, okay, if I know where I'm going and I've got great people, how do I measure my progress? And it's not like talking about wallpaper, style. It's about how do we look at something that tells us objectively how our business is doing going forward. Now, if I know where I'm going, if I understand who the great people are, and if I've had the data that tells me about my business, it creates a great deal of transparency in the business. But also what it does, because of that transparency, is it raises a whole series of issues. So the fourth component is issues. How do I set them up and knock them down? How do I do it so they're not around for a week, a month, a year, 2 years, right? I want to get them and deal with them and solve them forever. The next part of this is process. And for most entrepreneurs in a way, this is not something they necessarily focus on. But process is the way that you say, when I make a commitment to a client that I'm going to deliver these benefits to you, the definition of the process is this is how I do it. This is allowing me to think about how do I simplify what I do? How do I provide the quality in terms of what I do? How do I reduce in terms of errors going forward? So another component here is to think about how do I deal with process and define process. Now the last part of this is there's a wonderful quote by Thomas Alva Edison. Okay? The quote is, vision without execution is, anybody know the quote? Vision without execution is hallucination. And so vision, traction here, sits under vision because you can have the greatest idea in the world, right? But if you're not having the traction, the accountability and discipline to make it happen, it doesn't matter. It's interesting when you think about startups, right? There's a lot of ideas about startups. Oftentimes the issue with startups isn't so much a vision, it's how do I get it done? And how do I make it happen? So, what we have here is 6 components, and what I'm going to take you through is 2 disciplines within each of the components. And part of this process is going to be about dead plain simple. There's a lot of thought that's been put into what's here and what's not here. So what it starts with is 8 questions. So I need you to turn to page, it'll be page 4 and 5. And what you're looking at when you get to page 4 and 5, something called the Vision Traction Organizer. The first page is about vision. The second page is about traction. So what's happening here, the first discipline is, we're going to do this together, is really asking 8 questions, not 12, not 50, not producing a 50-page strategic plan. It's just 8 questions about my business. So we're going to start with, I'm really glad they added that other noise in the background, don't you think? It's so good to hear that. The first thing we're going to deal with is core values. Anybody have an idea what core values are? So core values are, who do I want in my business? Who do I love being with in my business? Right? It's in other words, a culture, but who is it? So what I'd like you to do, as you think about your business, write down 3 core values. All right? Now if you turn the page, you'll find a list of core values. So go to page, anybody have it? 6. Yeah, so it's page 6. You'll see an example of core values. But what you're really trying to figure out here is when I ask for people in my business, who do I want there, right? As you think about people you love working with, what aspects of culture, or core values do you want them to have? And you're going to see how we use this later, because it becomes a function. Oftentimes in business, what they do is they have something up on a poster, and they say, oh yeah, these are the 5 core values. And then everybody in the room, sort of like one of them could be innovation, and And then if you talk to the staff, they all snigger and go, no, 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 we don't do that. We're going to talk about how to make this happen here. Does everybody have 3 core values? So it's really important you write this down. Okay, sharing time. Who wants to be a brave one and share what their core values are? Go ahead.
Well, I only have one. The first one I put down was think like an owner.
Think like an owner is a great one. Okay. You want to choose? Do you want to?
No, I know.
You'll think about it. Anybody else? Somebody in the back row. Because you know when you're in the back row, I know in college we sat in the back row because we never wanted the teacher to pay attention to us. But that ain't going to work here. Anybody in the back row have some core values you want to talk about? Okay. What's your name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer? Okay.
Technical creativity and innovation technology.
Okay. So 2. Try to get a 3rd. You think about it. Who else?
Problem solving.
Okay. What else? Is that just one?
No, that was one, social,
Okay.
problem solving, great energy people.
Okay. It's 2. All right. So you're going to see what we're going to do with this in a minute. So again, this question is answering the question, who do I love being with? And it's a who question, and it says it's a core values because it comes from the core. Who are you? The next question here is something called core focus. And there are 2 questions as you look at it. There's something called purpose, cause, passion, and niche. Purpose, cause, passion is really about why do you get excited about your business? What gets you excited every day when you wake up and say, this is my business? What is that? Now I'm going to read you some examples because they're really good. Disney, 4 words to make people happy. Right? That's their purpose, cause, passion. Mary Kay. Anybody know Mary Kay? Yeah, okay. To give unlimited opportunity for women. Now here's one from Nike. You know, if you guys know the owner of Nike, but when I say this, you'll go, yep. Okay, to experience the emotion of competition, winning, and crushing competitors. Right? Okay, so for you, about your business, write down, try to keep it to a sentence. What is your purpose, cause, passion about your business? Everybody got something? Said somebody else is going to share. Sorry, what's your name?
Srinivas, Srini.
You have something down?
Yeah. Enable digital businesses to be effective, efficient, and I was just going to write it as
Good.
leaders in their markets.
And Doug, did you want to tell us? Do you have one? Oh, okay, doing something else. Okay, did you write something down?
Yeah, creating the best software for service companies and helping them grow through listening to them and identifying their needs and their processes and helping them refine that process.
Well, okay, a lot. Very good. Okay, so the next part of this is your niche. So the question we had first was purpose, cause, passion about, that's a why question. The next question is a what question. What do you deliver to your customers, right? What is it that you do differently about what you deliver to your customers? So if you said that's your passion, what is it you deliver to your customers, right? And it's what do you do best, essentially, okay? And it could be something really simple, a couple words, doesn't have to be a lot. So what is it you do best, okay?
So the first one was just about purpose, right? Okay.
Yeah, but you're still part of, this is still part of core focus, is their niche.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, when you're doing this, the challenge here is really to make choices. I talked before about the notion of intentionality. You know, you're not reacting, you're making choices. And in making those choices, one of the things that happens with these 2 values is there's a syndrome called shiny object syndrome. Anybody know what that is? You know, yeah?
Kind of.
Kind
You're
of?
attracted to things that are new and better and look nice.
Right, and what does that end up doing?
Sure.
You keep
Distracting,
changing.
right?
Yeah.
So the shiny object syndrome is it's funny. I come out of the software world, and we used to have this thing about chasing rabbits. And what it would mean was, if you've got a really talented software developer, right? Guy was really interested in new things, right? What happens when a rabbit passes your vision? Right? Your eyes go immediately to where the rabbit is. Well, that was what a software developer was doing. We had a new idea. Same thing kind of here. And the purpose here is that you've got to have focus. You really got to say, this is what my business is about. Because shockingly, you only have so much time, money, right? And drive to be able to do this. So it's really good to say, what is it? What is that business that I'm going to focus on? And another part of this, of course, is entrepreneurs in general have 20 great ideas, and you'll hear about this later, right? Lots of ideas. Okay, the next thing here is, it's just a big picture idea. So if you think out 10 years from now, it could be 5 years, actually that's not true. So take what you wrote on that first page and write it down here. Right? You put down a 5-year target on the first page, write it down here. Everybody understand what I'm asking them to do? Okay? Because this is the big idea, right? This is what you're trying to achieve. We good? So, in the 17th century, there was a mother and her son. And the mother was on a donkey, and they were traveling through the English countryside. And they got to the first town. And when she got through the town, she had the son walking beside her. She couldn't believe it, but they all started screaming at her, getting really angry. You know, it was like, and she couldn't figure out what are they getting angry about, right? I mean, what is this going on? So she goes through this town, and she goes to another town and says, well, I must be doing something wrong. Maybe what they're getting upset about is that I'm the mom and I'm sitting on the donkey. Maybe my son should be sitting on the donkey, right? Makes sense. So the son's sitting on the donkey, and she walks alongside, walks through the town, and she goes, I can't believe it. It's the same thing. You know, they're getting all angry. What do I got to do to satisfy these people? And then she says, you know what? Maybe in this county, you know, in England, it's about donkeys. It's about that you have to reverence donkeys. And so now what they're doing is they're coming to the third town. And there's a bridge, except it's a rickety old bridge. And so what she does is she and her son bend down, put the donkey on her back, and she starts walking across the bridge. Now, shockingly, the donkey falls off the bridge and falls into the river and dies. So what's the moral of the story? If you try to satisfy everyone, you lose your ass. Now, the point here is that we're going to talk about marketing strategy. And with marketing strategy, there are 4 components. The first component is to make a very active decision about who your ideal client is. You know, it's funny, when we start in business, it's almost like because we want cash, every customer is a good customer. That's not a way to build a business. So here you're making an active choice about what is the customer going to do. So, and it can be described a couple different ways. It could be described, you know, geographically, what's that area? It could be demographics, which is size of business kind of a thing, right? It could be vertical industry. It could be psychographics. Often in services business, it's about, do they share your values? So who is your ideal customer? Why don't you write that down? Who is your ideal customer? Anybody got something? So, again, let's get the brave one here, but let's get somebody who hasn't spoke before. So, who hasn't spoke before, just tell us, who's your ideal customer? Right, you wanna tell us? Yeah, go ahead.
My ideal customer is content owners in need of technology solutions.
Okay, and is there any size of content owners in particular? Do they have to be a certain size of any sort, or no? Can be any content, so give me that one again?
Video content.
Video content, okay? And is there a certain nature of industry or type of need that somebody would need video more than others?
Not any kind of business industry right now. I make more customer facing right now.
More customer facing?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, consumer.
Consumer facing. They don't sell to businesses. It's not business to business, it's business to consumers.
Yes.
So that would be an aspect of what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you have?
Well, my business is selling to dental practices.
Oh, that's pretty
And
specific.
some of them are owned by dental service or controlled by dental service organizations.
Right.
Which have large groups. I mean, both in the 10-year target, the ideal customer, I want to sell to more data-driven DSOs.
Okay, and so data-driven means they value that, right? So that's a psychograph, right? Which is, they've got to value it, right? Otherwise, it doesn't matter in terms of what they're doing. Okay, the next part of this is 3 uniques. So the point is, you've now chosen who your ideal customer is, right? Now the question is, how do you win? And by 3 uniques, what this is saying is, I may have 10 competitors out there. We do something in common that's somewhat unique. If I do 2 things, maybe it's down to 3. If I do 3 things, maybe that's what makes me unique. So write down for that ideal customer, right? What is it that you're doing that's unique about you that it says, this is how I win in the business?
So this is after the 10 years have elapsed, right? And you have got some institutional experience to do this.
Well, this is really saying, this is just a focus right now. I mean, 10 years is where you want to get to. You'll see how that works in a minute.
Oh,
Okay.
Right
so,
now.
Right now. Right now. You got something down? Or
Yes,
what you
I
got?
do.
Sure.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us first who your ideal customer is, and then tell us what your uniques are.
Sure. So my ideal customer is a large contracting company.
Okay. And say large, is there a number around that?
Over 10 million in revenue.
Over 10 million in revenue? Okay. Any type of contracting company in particular?
General contracting.
General contracting company, okay.
3 uniques about me currently. It's my availability,
Okay.
persistence,
Okay.
and I put personality.
Okay. Okay. So the question there is that something that's really unique?
I hope so.
Okay. All right. All right. So the next part of this is, what we're doing now is we're going to take this and we're going to try to make it more specific and concrete. So this 3-year part is we're put down, so we're going to do like 2.5 years. So as the date, put down 12/31/2018. 12/31. Some of you may not be in a fiscal year, but 12/31/2018. This is on the 3-year part. We're switching over out of market strategy into the 3-year. It's on the next side, right? So you put the date down. This is the 3-year picture. And what you want to do now is think of what's the revenue and what's the profit you want in your business by then, right? Revenue and profit. This is intentionality. This is saying this is what I want, no matter what my size of business is. How much do I want? The next part of this is, okay, if it's 12/31 and today was 12/31/2018, and we're talking in the past tense, tense, right? What's different about your business? So, right, what's different about your business? If today is December 31st, 2018, you've achieved that revenue goal, you've achieved that profit, what is different about your business? And this is writing down bullets. It could be you've introduced a new product. It could be I've got X number of customers. It could be I've added staff, right? It could be I've opened a different office in a different city. So write down, think about it, because what we're really trying to do here is get it to be very specific, right, and concrete. And the reason we're writing this down is because we're trying to get it out of our head as something vague. And the better we're able to make it concrete and write it down, the more likely we are to be able to achieve it. William, would you want to talk about just the differences? You don't have to talk about the revenue and profit part of it, but that's up to you.
So-
you want to talk about what's different going to be December 31st, 2018, and read it in the past tense.
Right.
It already happened.
Right, so, currently we're very small, so back in, or 2.5 years from now, we have 6 to 7 people, we have 30 clients, and I did, I'm a numbers guy, so revenue per client of 50,000 per year, and an average client size of 10 million in revenue.
Nice. Okay. Anybody else want to share their 3-year picture? No other brave ones here? Okay, good.
Okay. So we were at, so Baston's, right?
Yes,
So,
yeah.
so we were at $3 million in revenue.
Okay.
Annual profit of about $500,000.
Okay.
100,000.
Great.
It looks like about 10 full-time staff.
Okay.
Or partners.
Okay.
25 customers and 20 partners. What I mean by partners is they are going to be business partners who are going to be helping me deliver the solutions.
Okay. Okay. That's great. Okay. Okay, good. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
I would say we have a larger staff, 10 to 15, maybe 5 full-time, the rest part-time.
So 5 full-time and maybe 10 part-time?
Yeah.
In this exercise, what's really good is to get specific and concrete, okay? You're not making a commitment like it's in blood. But the idea is that when you put it down, it gets your brain to think differently when you say 5 people, 10 full-time, 5 full-time and 10 part-time, because your brain starts operating on it. So what else do you have?
I have that we're working in New York City Public Schools.
Okay?
We have a few consultants that we can bring in.
How many?
Let's say 4.
Good. Okay. Okay.
And we've been on the Ellen Show.
Wow. That's
And on
great.
Ellen?
Yeah.
I mean,
Super.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's terrific. That's terrific. Okay. All right. So now if you turn to the other page, the traction page, we've gone from our foot. Sorry. Yes.
I want to quarrel with something. Why do we want to frame 3-year progress in the number of employees when we're all in technology businesses?
I'm sorry. You're asking a question about why do I want to know 3 years from now?
Why do I want to frame
Yeah.
my progress
Yeah.
over the next 3 years in the number of employees
Yeah.
that I have when we're all in technology businesses?
I don't quite get that. So
Well,
everybody.
technology businesses, I mean, fundamentally, are supposed to reduce the reliance on human input and rely more on technology input.
Right, but if I'm running a business and I want to be a $5 million business, right, and I want to make, say, $1 million in profit, I have to understand staffing, right? And in order to do that number, I've got to say, who am I gonna have, you know, what's the salaries I'm gonna pay out for it, so I don't know how you not do that, right? I don't know how you don't understand, you know, people, so I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't understand.
Well, I think it's, my argument is that it's derivative. That first you figure out what you need to do, then you figure out how many people I need to do it.
Right, and that's part of this exercise. Part of this exercise is you're saying, I want to do, like, you know, this, if it's going to be 3 million, if it's going to be whatever, you know, then it's going to be what kind of people I want. And again, what you're doing here is you're starting to choose an answer, but it's also the kind of thing that you'll reflect on. So the first time you do this is sort of the harder part, and then you'll reflect on it as you continue the work. But let's continue here, if that's okay with you. We're going to continue, okay, to see, so you see where this goes. The next part of this is, I've got a 5-year view, I've got a 3-year view. So what we want to do now is we're going to do 6 months. And we're going to do, put down as a date on that 1-year part, 12/31/2016. Normally we do this at the beginning of the year, so put down 12/31/2016. Again, put down revenue for this year, put down profit for this year. Again, about intentionality, right? This is what I want.
So, best case, worst case, base case?
No, no. Oh, so that's a really good question. So when we're doing this, you've got 2 choices. One choice is that I'm going to put a number down and I'm committed to it. And you'll see what happens with this as we go forward about why it's important to do that. Because one of the elements here is a skill about prediction, about getting better predictions. So you could say, you know, I'm putting down a number and I'm definitely going to make it. Okay, that's the number. Or it's going to be, I'm going to put some number down that's a challenge for me. You've got to give those 2 choices. Now, I come from the point of view that you want to be really specific about it, because as you evaluate your progress and figure out what are you doing that works and what doesn't work, you can't do that, you know, when it's like something that's challenging out there. It's got to be something that's specific going forward. So it's up to you, William, what you want to do. All right. Now, the next part of this is you'll see goals. And what you're trying to say here is, what are those 3 to 7? And I say 3 to 7 because less is more. What are those 3 to 7 goals for the rest of the year that's going to allow you to make your 3-year plan happen? So what are the 3 to 7 things? And do people know about SMART as an acronym? Ring a bell, anybody?
Specific, measurable,
Actionable.
Attainable, realistic, and timely. So what you want to do here is, you want to make this, and the ones to concentrate on in the SMART is specific and measurable. You want to know that you write this down in terms of what you want to achieve for this rest of the year, because at the end of the year, you want to be able to say, did you achieve it or didn't you achieve it, right? It's got to be clear. So write that down. You got something down? Okay, no? Okay. Anybody else? So who's got something down there about what they're going to do the rest of this year? What is it? Somebody, I don't know your name in the back. You got something down as to what you...
Revenue is 2 million.
Okay,
Profit is 600.
okay,
25 deals closed.
okay, that's for this rest of this year.
Correct.
Okay, and what...
30% profitability.
Okay, and what are the goals? This is, what are you gonna get done to make the business a better business?
20 plus 20% new accounts.
Okay, okay. And, because what you're trying to figure out here is, there's something called working in the business and on the business. I don't know if people have heard that term before. You know, some of you have. Working in the business, and the story is, the writer who talked about this is he used the example of a baker. If I'm a baker, I could bake the bread, I can go out and I can sell the bread, right? That's working in the business. But working on the business says I define how it is that the bread should be baked, and I write it down so somebody else can do it. I have somebody else in front, right, who could sell. I teach them how to sell, right? That allows me to work on the business to make it a better business. So here the question is, as you're thinking about things to get done, what is it that's going to be different about your business? What's going to make your business a better business? Okay? Now, the next part of this is quarterly rocks. So again, term, rocks. Anybody know what that means? No? This is from Stephen Covey, for any people who are fans of Stephen Covey. And what the story is about is, suppose I had a cylinder on the table, right? And next to the cylinder, there are rocks. Rocks represent those things which help your business be a better business. Right? What multiplies things? What can I do that really makes a difference? There are pebbles, work you got to do in the business. There's sand, other things I got to get done, or someone's trying to deal with me, and then water. Now, if I put in the pebbles into the cylinder, and I put the sand on top of the pebbles, and I put the water in, and then I try the rocks to fit in, are the rocks going to fit? But those are the most important things. So what I want to do is make sure that I get the rocks done first. And so here what you're doing is, the date on this one, say the date is September 30th. So you're going out 3 months, September 30th. And now you're taking what you wanted to get done by the year, and again, you're writing down what are the rocks you want to get done. And you really want to make this specific and measurable. So given what you want to get done by the end of the year, what are the things that you want to get done by September 30th? Now, some of you I think are solo people like I am. If you have staff, put names down next to this, because this is where we bring in accountability, and you'll see how this is used later. So write down, again, 3 to 7, less is more. By the way, how are we doing on speed here? I am from New York, so I talk faster. So are we okay on the speed?
Yes.
Faster, we're good? Yeah?
Go faster.
What?
You can go faster.
Ah, okay. Okay. Again, who wants to share? I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
Oh, hi.
Did you want to share what you had?
Yeah, I have enough money to do the app properly.
So what's the work to get done? What's the work? So it's specific and measurable. Is there, what is the work? Is it getting the money? So do you have to do fundraising? Okay. So what is success in the fundraising? How would you frame it in such a way that you know you've been successful?
$52,000.
Okay, so the thing that you want to get done in the next 90 days is to get $52,000, and is that in your bank?
Without giving away 90% of the company.
Shocking to hear. Shocking to hear. Okay, but
I got people who want to do that.
Okay, but the rock, right, is to get $52,000 into your bank.
Yeah.
So it's by the end of that time, you've got the money. Right? I'm really being specific and measurable here, because the question is, what is success? How do you know you've done it? Anybody else want to share anything? You have something?
Yeah, okay. So the revenue is half of what I anticipated, 50,000 to 25,000.
Okay.
No profit because we're investing in the business.
Right.
Rocks would be sell 2 to 3 security appliances.
Great, very specific, you exactly know. And by the way, when you say 2 to 3, choose a number.
3.
3, good. Okay, more aggressive.
Sell, I mean, I put a range again, 1 to 3. I mean, it depends on the size, right? One could be 25, one could be 10 and 20. I'm saying range is 3 analytics engagements and sell 1 to 3 digitization engagements.
Okay,
I put
so-
names against those.
Okay, you have names of people who are going to sell that stuff anyway. Did you put anything down for yourself?
Yes, I did. 2 referral partners.
So obtain 2 referral partners?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
I will be on track with educational objectives.
So again, specific and measurable, what would that look like?
So I have them in my calendar of when I have to take these exams.
Oh, okay.
So I just
okay.
will be on
okay.
track.
Okay.
And then at the moment, that is what I have.
Okay, great. Okay, so the last part of this, issues, is coming out of all of this, there are usually challenges, and so we start tracking issues, and I'll explain more what to do with that. And I spent a lot of time on this 2-page document because it's really powerful, okay? I'm going to spend some time on some other stuff, but I'm not going to necessarily spend time on all the parts of what this is about. Any questions on this Vision Traction Organizer? This is just the first item, okay? And when you go up here, there are 2 items. The first item is getting clarity with yourself, the leadership team, about where you're going and how to get there. But the next part's to share it with everybody in the business. I don't know, how many, is anybody here that got more than 10 people in their business? So we're all small businesses here, right? Okay. So when you've got a larger business, I have a company in St. Louis, or a 225-person software business that's got staff in both Asia and Europe, right? So what you want is, if you were to talk to any of those people and say, what's your core values? They would know what the core values are. If you said, what's the 3-year plan? They would know what the 3-year plan is. Because it's not good enough just it's in your head or with your staff. You want everybody in the business to do that. The reason is you want everybody rowing in the same direction because they're making decisions about priorities, right? And so what you want is they're making the decisions about the priorities that match your business. So next topic we're going to talk about is people. And we're going to talk about right people and right seats. Now, turn to the page, and you'll see something. It's got a hokey name called People Analyzer. So it's page 7. And what I want you to do is you put down 3, hopefully, core values on the Vision Traction Organizer. So what you want to do is put them across the top. These are EOS Worldwide core values. Humbly confident, grow or die, help first, do the right thing you say. Put your core values up there.
You can write those down?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Now, it's going to be tough if you're a solo person, but we'll see what we do in a minute. So write those down. So this is in terms of staff we either have, maybe you want, because normally when I do this, I say, take the person who most reflects your core values, okay, and put their name down on the left side, like Sally Jones. Put the person who least represents those core values. Okay, so best represented, least representative. Okay, and if you have a third person who's with them, put them down. Everybody understand?
No, I didn't understand. I mean, so you're saying if it's most aligned with you, put a plus?
No, I didn't do that yet. I just said put names down.
Perfect.
So the names are people, and again, if you're a one-person company, it's a little hard to do. It's about yourself, right? But this will also be a test of whether these values make sense. So it's really, when I do this normally, it's going to be about choosing people who represent, first, who most represents the values that you have, who least represents the values, and someone in the middle. So if you have a business like that, or you want to put it about yourself, just do it about yourself. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set a bar. This is what's different. So what you're going to do is for everybody's name, you're going to put down a plus, meaning they get those values most of the time. They show them most of the time. A minus means they don't show them most of the time. And a plus or minus means they show them sometimes. Is everybody clear on what I'm asking? Like for your names, you can do this for yourself as well. When you put down those core values, you reflect the values, or for other people.
No, against those value criteria, right?
that you have up on top, your core values.
Oh, okay.
No, not these values, your core values, the ones you put down. Okay?
What is the bar mean again?
I get that.
Oh.
Okay, let's first do it. So who's got staff that they can put down? Do you have staff right now? No? Okay. Anybody have staff that you can talk to? Okay, you do.
Okay, but I need a few minutes to
Yeah,
type.
that's okay. Murray, do you have staff?
Yeah,
Okay, so did you put some names down?
yeah.
Okay, so let me explain where we go with this. This notion, the bar, is the minimum you want in your business. And so when you have 5 values, say, the rule of thumb would be, I want any 3 values, I want that person to show those core values most of the time, and 2, plus or minus means sometimes. Now why that's important is because if they're not like that, I don't want them in my business. This is the judgment that says the right people are the people who share my values, and this is the very simple tool to figure that out. Okay? Then we go through the exercise. Have you done?
Yep.
So what did you discover about the person who was the, what did you put down for the worst person in your business? You don't have to say the name, obviously, but who least represents your values? What did you find out when you put down the values?
Plus, minus, minus.
Plus, minus, minus.
So I have 3 values.
Okay, and plus, minus, minus.
Yeah.
And the one who's the best?
Plus, plus, minus.
Okay, plus, plus, minus. So for the one that's, you said plus, minus, minus?
Yes.
Okay, that's a problem.
Okay.
Because that's not the right person. So let's say for the 225 person St. Louis company, what you want is all 225 people to meet the bar or be above it, right? And if they're not, by the way, then the question becomes, what do you do? And this is about coaching. So you either coach them up to be and share those core values, or really you don't want them in your business, to be honest. Those are not the people, because you want the people to share the values. Everybody good with this? Understand it? Yeah?
I'm just wondering, maybe there are different criteria for evaluating people in different sort of aspects, different groups of the business, different departments, I suppose.
The core values?
Like, your programmers, or you want to be doing this?
Core values are core values. They're really the whole business. And then I'm going to talk about another dimension here, which may get to what you're talking about. The next dimension is, those are the right people. It's something called the right seats. And again, this comes from Jim Collins, the fans of Jim Collins. And if you turn the page, you'll see something called an accountability chart. Now, what this is about in every business, you could say that there's 3 functions. You've got sales and marketing, which is really, how do I identify a prospect? Marketing. Sales is, you know, I've got the prospect, how do I close them? Operations is, I'm providing that value of whatever I said to the customer, right? Could be customer service. And finance is, if I'm taking in $1, I better be spending less than $1, right? So this is looking at the question of structure. What's the right structure for my business? And you think 6 to 12 months. Now, there's an insight here that comes out of this process, which is that in some businesses with some owners, there's somebody called a visionary. And a visionary is somebody who's got 20 ideas a day, one of which is fabulous. They're great with people. They're great with outsiders. But you know what? They're really not good at running the business because they don't like the details of running a business. So maybe they can run it for 90 days, but it's boring to them. And when we have this situation, if you've ever run into this, there's somebody called an integrator. So what we do is we separate them out. The person at the top is the one with the product ideas, the one that has the core values. But the integrator is the person who puts this all together, who says, I know how to organize the stuff, I know how to work through the organization, okay? I know how to deal with P&L and manage P&L, I know how to deal with this business strategy because I'm executing the business strategy. So what happens here is that this is something you figure out and you draw your own chart to start with, but that's the first part. The second part is, for each box that you structure, and I'm not going to do that now, it's something you can do on your own as you think about if you're going to grow your business, because this is about how to scale a business. The next part, which makes this an accountability chart, is you put down what are those key roles and responsibilities for each person. So when you look in the workbook, you'll see that you've got a list in there for an integrator and for other functions. And what you're doing here is really getting clarity around who's doing what to whom. And this goes back to the notion of, well, how do people know what they're doing? How do I know I can count on you to do it? So this is getting clarity. So I have a client who's a $5 million client, and we did this with his leadership team. One simple page. You know, he's got 12 people after reporting to him. Big company, right? But this was about getting clarity because they didn't have one page that told them what there was to do. So the accountability chart, something to be done. Now the other part of this is, okay, I've got this set up. I've got my structure, how I'm going to build out my company. I've got a definition of what each person is going to do. But now the question is, are they the right person? So what's that mean? I'm going to ask 3 questions about them. Do they get the job the way it's defined on this chart? Do they want the job? And do they have the capacity to do the job? And what I'm looking for here is, again, I want these questions because I'm trying to figure out who the right person is. And what I then add to this chart is, get it, what are the capacity? So we have here, right, this is this the right person, core values? And this part of it is, are they the right person in the right seat? So for the people you've got down there, by the way, give them whatever job you have. Try to answer that question now, okay? Or answer the question, are they the right person? So do they get the job? Do they want the job, meaning are they enthusiastic about it? And then do they have capacity to do it? Your staff? No.
So what do you want us to do there?
So the idea is for those people
Yes or
with
no?
names down,
Right.
okay, figure out, for a job that you've got in mind for them, do they get the job? So put a yes or no. Do they want the job, yes or no? And do they have capacity? Capacity, by the way, could be temperament, because you know, if you're thinking an accountant, you're not necessarily going to make that accountant a salesperson. So it could be experience, background. So that's what you want to put down. The interesting thing here for the people who are solopreneurs like I am, it's really to figure out what you really want in life, right? Because you got to get it, you got to want it, you got to go out and ask you to do it. When you think about what it is that you're doing, you enjoy what you're doing, right? So, William, did you have any people down that you put down?
Yeah.
So how did it turn out with the yeses and the nos?
So they're all yeses. I have one question mark under wanted. One
okay.
person.
One person. Yes. Well, what about you? What'd you have down?
For me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a yes, yes, no. One with all yeses.
Ah, good.
And the other third person is no, yes, yes.
Okay. So the point here is, the goal is to get everybody in their right seat. All right. So get with the 225 people. You want them to be the right people.
Yep.
And you want them to be in the right seat. By the way, when you do this, it causes a lot less consternation and conflict, because the 2 types of problems that occur here are going to be a problem where you've got the right person, culture, core values, in the wrong seat. So hopefully you can move them to the right seat. The harder one is when you've got somebody who's in the right seat, but not the right values. Okay, and what this is about that sometimes they can be toxic. They can be a prima donna. This is a harder one to remove out of the business. Okay, so that's about great in terms of having the right person, right seat. Now, data. So, my wife and I were in Los Angeles, and we were taking a flight to Hawaii. It's kind of cool, right? And so, but gets on the line. First flight of the plane is gets on and says, "I got good news and bad news." Right? Well, I don't want to hear that necessarily. So he says, "Okay, the bad news is I don't know where we are, and I don't know how much fuel we have." Well, how the hell is that good news, right? Good news is we're making great time. Right? So what this is about is measurement, right? And so here what you're trying to figure out is about your business. What are a couple of metrics that you would use to define success? So Sam Walton had one. His one metric when he was building his business was, how many people come into my store and don't buy something? If you're an optometrist, anybody, by the way, in the optical industry, optometrist, if you're an optometrist, the thing that matters to you most is how many exams you're going to do in an hour. That drives your entire business. That's the metric. So for your business, write it down. It could be 1, 2 metrics that help you define how are you going to measure success in your business, okay?
I have a question. So when you put like goal, do you put the total and then break it down by week?
So what this is going to be is you put down a metric here, measurable. You're going to set a goal that's a weekly goal. I'll explain that in a minute, okay? It's also going to have an owner, by the way. So there's going to be somebody who's accountable for doing this. Now, obviously, if you're a solopreneur, shoot. But the question still is, even if you're somebody who's your own business, how do you measure your own success? How do you know you're going to be successful? Now, there's something called leading and lagging indicators. So lagging indicators, financial, looks backwards. Leading indicator is where it's telling you about the future, about your business. Usually it's sales. You know, you said how many leads, right? Well, if I know how many leads do I need coming in order for me to convert those leads to sales, right? So that's more, the important stuff is really the stuff about the future and being able to figure what that's about, okay? Anybody have something in terms of what? Yeah, go ahead, Trevor.
How many people recommend our app to others?
Okay, great. Okay, something to track. Anybody else?
Number of leads per quarter.
Great, great. Okay. Do you have something for yourself in terms of what would be a metric?
Number of demos,
Great.
number of contracts, percent of software as a service.
Great. Okay. Okay, good. All right. Now, there are two things here. And these are, by the way, if you turn the page, I should have done this earlier. You'll see some others.
What's closed business?
Say what?
Closed business?
Of somebody who becomes a prospect for you, right? And it depends on the definition of prospect. The definition may be they've indicated interest in whatever service or product you're offering. From that time forward to the end, meaning you either close them.
What is it?
That's right. So it's that kind of ratio.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
It's like conversions.
You convert it. Okay. The second part of this then is that you've got the scorecard. That's the first discipline here. The second discipline, though, is a measurable. Measurable just means, again, if you have more people in your business, it's not only are you doing a scorecard for the leadership team, it's just something where everybody in the business, once you understand what the work is that they're doing, you know, you give them a number, something that makes it very specific and concrete. So the next part of this is, now that I've gotten clarity around my vision, now I've gotten clarity who the great people are, now that I've been able to measure it, there should be a whole bunch of issues that come up. So what do we do with the issues? And shockingly, we have an issues list. Whoa, what a concept, right? We're tracking things. How are we doing that? The key part here, though, is there's something called IDS. And IDS is a way of thinking about issues. Oftentimes, when teams get together, what they spend a lot of time on is discussing an issue, but they don't necessarily get to the root cause of an issue. And if they discuss it, they don't necessarily come up with an action. So the structure here, it's a really simple structure, not so simple to do necessarily, is that when you're dealing with an issue, what you want to first do is identify what is the issue. And usually the first thing that you hear is not the issue. You got to peel it, right? So if anybody's involved in quality, you know there are 5 whys. Anybody know about 5 whys? In quality, to get to a root cause, you go, why is there a problem? And then when you hear the answer, you go, why is that? And then why is that? Here it's the same thing, which is what's the issue? You'll hear something, then what's the issue, then what's the issue? Then the idea is to discuss alternatives and to have a really open and honest conversation about alternatives. What are they going to be? And then it's to choose an action, and I'll show you where we're going to get that. But then it's to get to solve. So this 4th component is really a process where you track issues. I'll explain how that works in a minute. And then you have a process to get them faster, answered faster. How do I do that through this process?
Hey, Brian?
Yeah.
I have rarely seen a group, a team that can do this themselves without outside help.
I'll explain in a minute where this is going.
Okay.
Okay, good question, but I'll explain it. Okay, so hold on to that thought, and let's see if this is working now. It's not working. So the 5th component is process. And process just means that you're documenting stuff. But the thing is that you're really trying to do, and you can turn the page, oops, and you go to page, thank you. And what there is a list of a number of processes. What you're really trying to figure out here is what are the key processes in my business? And usually it's sales, marketing, but what you're just trying to find out is when I'm delivering whatever it is I'm delivering, what are those key things? Because the next thing I want to do is I want to document them. And when you're documenting them, oops. When you're documenting, you're using a rule, which is a 20-80 rule, sort of the opposite, right? I want to document 20% of the process to get 80% of the value, right? Because what you're trying to say is I've got maybe 6 core processes, if that, right? And for each of those, I'm going to do maybe a couple of pages, 20%. But when I have that, I have a book. And what this book represents is when I commit to my customers that I'm going to deliver value, basically this is how I deliver value. I follow these processes. Also what it means is it's not in my head, right? It's out of my head. So it isn't like I'm dependent on someone who's got it all in their head. This is something, right, which is going to be, okay, I can hire other people going into it. And then, obviously, if I document it, it's got to be followed by all. The last part of this is those rocks that we talked about on the Vision Traction Organizer. Rocks are for everybody in the business. So those 225 years in the company, they, in St. Louis, decide on the rocks that's on the Vision Traction Organizer, and then they roll the rocks out to all of their staff in St. Louis, in Europe, and in Asia. Because what you're doing then is saying that everybody is aligned on the most important things to be done for the business. So that's part of the traction, which is how do we get the stuff done that we want to get done? But then there's another part of this, and William, this is where it gets to what you're talking about. There's a series of meetings where it's compartmentalized as to what you think about when. And there's one important meeting. It's called the Level 10 meeting. And the first thing in this Level 10 meeting is a segue, good news, and you're talking about 2 things. You're talking about something that's personal. You know, what good news happened in the last week? And the reason you're doing this is if you're working with a team, the best way to get to know people is to share the personal stuff. You know, there's a saying that says, it's not that I don't like somebody, it's I don't know them. And so by talking about that stuff, you get to know better. The second thing you talk about in that is a professional best. Because what you're trying to get out of in the process is going to be, you know, working in the business to working on the business. So I want to get out of that mode and start thinking about working on the business. The second thing is you saw a scorecard where you start putting down some metrics. So here what you're doing, and you're doing this within 5 minutes, is did I meet my goal or not meet my goal? If it's an issue, it's going to come down to the issues component part of this. The next thing is rocks. I've decided, like you put down from September 30th, here's what I want to get done. At this weekly meeting, what you're looking at is asking the question, are we on track for September 30th or not? On, off, no status reporting. If it's an issue, it's going to come down to the issues section. The next part is people. Either, I want to hear about either you know, my customers or about staff? Good news, bad news, it's a sharing. Now, these three things, my metrics, which is helping me know about how am I doing? The rocks are about priorities, what's the most important thing to do, and about people are the three most important things you can report on during the week. Then what happens is there's a to-do list. This is a 7-day action to-do list. If you think about it, we've gone from that 5-year to the 3-year to the 1 year to the 90 days down to 7 days. And I'll explain how this is going to get filled out. But the purpose of the to-do list is you go through the to-do list and you say, is it done or not done? That's it, done or not done. And the goal is to get 90% of the to-dos to done. Now, coming out of this 25 minutes in this 90-minute meeting, by the way, when I say 90 minutes, you're supposed to groan, right? Who wants another meeting, right? But this meeting replaces other meetings. It's really powerful. So what you're doing here is, in this section, you've got a list of issues, and you're prioritizing them and choosing the first 2 and 3. And then for the first issue, you're doing the identify, discuss, solve. When you solve it, it's going to come up usually with an action, and the action goes on the to-do list. It's a 7-day action. And that's what you're doing going through this list, right? So very powerful that you're spending a lot of time on concentration. Now what this 90-minute meeting does is it really amplifies your ability to get things done faster. It also allows you to solve more problems and get to more substantive problems faster. Now, in running the meeting, you need a facilitator. And someone on the leadership team is usually someone who runs and runs the meeting. And they've got to go through this format. Okay. Any questions about this? So I'm just trying to stay with the time here. So, I said in the beginning that there were 2 goals in this meeting. I was working with you. First goal was to help you simplify how you think about the business and get greater traction in the business. The second goal is to give you some practical, simple tools to use in your business that allows you to get more done. So were we able to do that in terms of what you had here?
Yep.
Good. Now, there's a book called Tuesdays with Maury.
Maury Povich?
What?
Maury Povich or?
No, Big Charlie. It's Tuesday with Maury. For those who don't know it, Maury's mentor was dying. And he would see him every Tuesday. And the book was about fabulous. But one of the things that was very profound in that book was he said the greatest gift you can give somebody is your time. So I always appreciate it, you know, when people give me their time, which is really going forward. Now, I'm never happy with just talking. So if you turn to the last page here, and that'll be page 15, you'll find that we went through a number of tools. We went through that 2-page vision traction organizer first. We discussed an accountability chart where you structure stuff and look at your staff. We talked about defining rocks to get done within the 90 days. Just went over this 90-day meeting and then a scorecard. So what I'd like you to do is to circle one thing that you're going to get started on coming out of this meeting. I'm never happy unless there's action coming out of something, not just talking. So can you circle something that you're going to go after in the next next 7 days to implement one of these things? Everybody circled something? So let's share. What did you circle and why? Go ahead.
I circled the rocks.
Okay.
Because those are defined as the biggest things that will move your business forward and stop focusing on the pebbles, the little stuff. So.
Okay, give you focus,
Yeah.
right, you drive for it. Anybody else?
I'm gonna hire you to help me.
We'll talk about that in a minute. So anybody else, in terms of what they put down, is what you want to, did you put down something? Yes, go ahead.
The vision traction organizer, because the list of core values is difficult for me, okay?
Yeah.
I can see in my company, more than half, perhaps 2/3 of those values are already there. So it's hard for me to prioritize among them and reduce them to 5, 3, 5.
Okay.
That I would use in the rest of the exercise.
So that's the part you're gonna go after. Okay, anybody else in terms of what they're gonna do?
I circled 2. I mean, one is the vision traction organizer.
Yeah.
That's kind of helps you operationalize your vision.
Right.
And the meeting pulse, I think that's like a little, I mean, it's just a framework for conducting meetings.
Right, and that level 10 meeting, let me tell you, is really powerful. When you run it that way, it's the same time, by the way, when if you do it, it's the same time, same day, same agenda, that you start on time, you end on time, and you deal with substantive issues.
And you can scale it down, you know, it doesn't have to be 90 minutes, you can break it down to 30 and scale the.
So in
That's
this
the-
process, it would be pure to run it 90 minutes, and there's reasons for that. Anyway,
That's a weekly meeting?
that's a weekly meeting. Yeah, right, which is what I was talking about before. Usually that's what I hear when I say weekly 90 minutes. Now, the last part of this is I made these, okay? So the name of my company is Cape Horn Strategies. The reason is Cape Horn, South America is called the Roaring Forties latitude. And the captains of these galleons in the 15th and 16th century were guys who went around Cape Horn. It was the worst place in the world to go. They usually crashed going around. To me, CEOs of companies are equivalent to these guys who are going from the Atlantic to Pacific. So I wish you all good sailing in reaching your 5-year goals. So thank you very much. Now, there's a book. There's a website called EOS Worldwide, or if you're looking for someone to help, that's what I'm here for. Okay? Any questions, by the way, because we're trying to get us done by 8 o'clock. Any questions from everybody about what they heard? I've given you an awful lot of information, right? Fire hose. Any questions? We're good? Okay, Doug, anything else to do?
No.
Okay? We're adjourned. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you all coming tonight. I hope you got value out of this.
Thank you.